Good morning, folks. And it looks like President Trump has jumped on the bandwagon of blaming video games for violent culture. And I guess it's to be said, you never waste a good tragedy, or whatever, however the saying goes. And looks like that's what the president is doing. So, we've gone over this debate. We do know that media does not cause violence. There are specific individual cases that are tragic for their own reasoning, like Slenderman, the two girls, I believe, who were, I don't know how young, didn't understand the concept of what was going on with the Slenderman mythos and the death of their friends. So there are very few cases we can point to video games specifically, but there's no evidence to support the inclusion of ultra-violent video games or video games in general to cause people to go on rampages. So let's see what the president has to say. We must stop the glorification of violence in our society. Once we've... Why would we be a better society without death metal, Death Race 2000 in the 70s, gangster rap, every violent movie you can think of? Would we be better off or less better off? What would be the boon? What would be the good thing if we got rid of violent content? Well, we'd get very boring content. There'd be no dark side to humanity for us to see the mirror. We can look upon ourselves and say, this is who I am not. This is who I do not want to be. When you write a story, you want virtues and vices, and you want to see a clear distinction between the two. Sometimes you don't want a clear distinction. You want that gray area, that morally gray area you're not sure of, that you can identify with both protagonist and antagonist. So not only do we need to glorify violence and sex and drugs and all these other things, we need better storytellers to showcase why these things are good and why these things are bad. So glorification, subduing, however you want to tell your story, make sure the message is clear. And then the critic or the consumer can say, this is good, this is bad, I like this, I learned something from this, etc. So you cannot stop an artist from expressing themselves, whether it's violent, dark tendencies or whether it's positive, friendly ones. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. If they're commonplace, we would have had a lot more problems in the past. Same with movies, same with books. It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence. So what? We must stop and substantially reduce this. Why? And it has to begin immediately. Good luck with that, buddy. No one's going to stop. We're not going to stop consuming things we like. In fact, we're going to want more. We're going to want better. Video games have become a cultural phenomenon unlike any other media we have seen. It will never stop. It's a billion-dollar industry that encompasses all the other media forms combined. Cultural change is hard, but each of us can choose to build a culture that celebrates the inherent worth and dignity of every human life. That's what we have to do. Most of the stories I read have to do with the human spirit in some regard, striving against the impossible sometimes. So even in ultra-violent video games, you can look at Gears series, they're fighting against a common enemy. People are coming together to preserve the things they care about, their families. The perils of the internet and social media cannot be ignored, and they will not be ignored. Okay, what are the perils of the internet? He added that he was directing federal agencies, and social media companies to develop tools that can detect messages before they strike. Not going to happen unless you develop technology that can mind read people and somehow be able to generate a SWAT team within minutes. It's not going to help. There's no bot. There's no screen scraping algorithm. There's no AI that can properly do this yet. We're not into that futuristic, peaceful techno society yet, where we have a glorified, good Big Brother who can treat us from cradle to grave of the proper path you must take in life. We don't have that. I've read quite a lot of utopia or dystopia stories, and they're all that flip side. They're all utopian, dystopian. There's always a very dark side to it. The statement read by the president acknowledged that the El Paso shooter had posted a manifesto consumed by racist hate. You could kind of argue that, but it's really about his economic and political reasons regarding immigration. So I don't think that's accurate. And called on Americans to condemn racism, saying that hate has no place in the country. I don't know. I think love has an equal place as hate does in the country. You cannot express love if you cannot express hate properly. You don't have freedom of speech to talk about the weather. You have freedom of speech to talk about controversial issues. So you need to have your equal amounts of hate and love and like and dislike, etc. To take away one takes away the other. You need to have freedom across the board. It doesn't work otherwise. If you take away one method of expression, it'll pop up somewhere else in the worst way possible. Can you imagine taking away parts of an American, of the First Amendment to an American? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine taking away the Second Amendment? I mean, you're just whoa. You do not want to go that route, Mr. President. If you want a revolution, that's how you start it. Unsurprisingly, however, the speech made no mention at all of Trump's own ongoing contribution to the rise in virulent racism and related violence in the U.S. Now, I'm not going to blame the poster, whether it's his opinion or not. Some people think this. I don't like blaming people for racism. It's like a leader of a country. I don't blame Obama for the racism or potential racism that occurred during his reign. I don't blame the behavior of my leader on the behavior of left-leaning people or centrist-thinking people in the country of Canada. I mean, it's just, that's silly. Unless you have evidence, you're not making it's a very empty sentence to say this. Besides, this is not about Trump. This is about what Trump wants to do or is trying to do. And these are really empty words so far, also by Trump. So there's really, like, what is he going to do? Is he going to, like, beef up the NSA? How is that going to help? According to the BBC report, the El Paso shooter said his attack was a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. Well, if you read the first part, he says, in general, I support the Christchurch shooter and his manifesto. This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. So it's right there. It's the first paragraph. According to Facebook's ad archive, Trump has run around 2,200 Facebook ads since May 2018, mentioning the word invasion. Scrolling through, all of them seem to be about immigration. Well, it's one of the main reasons he was elected. Build the wall. The El Paso shooter also expressed support for the Christchurch, New Zealand killer. Yep, that's what he said. Also raged about replacement conspiracy theories and white supremacy, and praised Trump as a symbol of renewed white identity and common purpose. Let's just do that. Let's see if that's there. White. But the idea of deporting or murdering all non-white Americans is horrific. Many have been here at least as long as the whites and have done as much to build our country. Really? Those are the only three instances. I know that the media will probably call me a white supremacist when he's actively saying that the idea of deporting or murdering all non-whites Americans is horrific. Very strange thing to say when you're about to start killing a bunch of people. Many have been here as long as the whites and have done as much to build our country. The best solution to this for now would be to divide America into a confederacy of territories with at least one territory for each race. Okay, that's interesting. That's definitely a racial solution, or his idea of a racial solution. But he's saying, no, there are people who are non-white who have done great things in America. So while his idea involves segregation, he's doing it a series of territories. It's not just one giant group of one giant country. This is a very specific thought process that you can't just categorize as him hating the Hispanics. His solutions or suggestions for a solution is very specific. So you have to be careful reading this guy. He's not dumb. What he did was horrific, but it's very nuanced. The president's remarks echo those of other Republican lawmakers. Yes, we've gone over this. Political leaders continue to invoke video games in the event of mass shootings. Yep. As well as driving anti-video game hysteria among the nation's hand-wringing class. Trump's rhetoric had a material impact on major video game publishers today. As reported by Bloomberg, Activision, EA, and Take-Two shares all fell by at least 5%. Yeah, whenever the president goes to the bathroom, the stock market goes up and down, okay? It's not gonna hurt their sales. Just prior to his speech, Trump called on Republican and Democrat legislators to come together and get strong background checks, which he then, for no apparent reason, linked to the U.S. immigration system. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to stop mass shooters. Yeah, so guys, don't take these things seriously. I don't think there's anything any government can do, any NSA technology can do to stop people from playing video games, from getting their media. There's no evidence of video games causing mass shooters. There's none. And unfortunately, the president made a faux pas. So, still a sad state of affairs for America, for media in general. But these things are not going to stop your favorite games or your favorite future games coming out. And hopefully, as the years go by, people like Trump or other people who don't know any better will actually read about the people who do these horrible things and why they do them. And hopefully come to some, if they want to really understand the form behind these people's behavior, will start to understand that there are individual reasons for every person doing what they're doing. It's not some collectivist mentality that we can change by turning a dial or hitting a switch on culture. It's not going to happen. Thanks, guys, for listening. Have yourself a great morning.